Hello, everyone, and welcome to this COVIDSafe legal compliance session run by Kaizen Synergy Law Firm. My name is Nihal Samara. I'm the General Counsel and Legal Director here at the law firm Kaizen Synergy, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's session. Today's session really focuses on the COVIDSafe legal rules, COVIDSafe plans, and also contact tracing using QR codes. And I'll actually walk you through the session and materials and legal requirements that your agency needs to know about and also follow. As always, we'd like to pay our respects to the elders past and present upon the lands on which we all meet. While this session is being run by webinar, we do pay our respects to the traditional owners accordingly. So today's agenda covers a number of different areas, and we're going to cover off what are the current rules in place, because that is obviously important for agencies to be aware about. And this includes rules right across each state and territory, and all of these materials that I use today, we will actually be supplying in today's follow-up email to yourselves, and a bit more of that a bit later. Also, we're going to be looking at what are QR codes and how do they work. We're actually going to use real life examples, and you can also use your own mobile phone today if you've got one at hand, and we can actually do that together. So we can actually show you how these actually work in real life situations as well. We're also then going to look at COVID plans and dashboard. And with that, there's been a lot of discussion literally since this time last year around designing COVID plans and how these actually work. There's still a lot of confusion about what is actually required. And while a plan is important, it's also important that you also have the tools needed to support those plans. So we've seen where some agencies have gone ahead and quickly to try to develop a COVID plan, but really all it's done is just sit on the bookshelf, so to speak, and not actually be used. So we're going to actually look at, well, what does a plan actually look like? How do you update it? How do you update it when rules change as well? And we're going to be using real life situations around this. We're also going to be looking at, especially for not-for-profit agencies, running things like community events, group classes, those types of events that you will be running, and slowly opening up as rules start to relax, or if rules become restricted again. What do you actually need to do around this? And again, these link back to contact tracing using QR codes. They link back also to COVID plans. And we've seen that really over the last 12 months with agencies going through different hotspot regions. When I say going through, hotspot regions being applied to them because of various outbreaks, but they've actually been able to manage this very, very simply and easily. And we're going to show you how that's been done. And also, as I've mentioned, we're going to look at what our other agencies doing as part of looking at the legal compliance obligations that you and your agency need to meet. With attending this webinar, we will be looking at circulating all of the resources that we use, including these slides. So we've been running, our law firm's been running these webinars since February last year, and they are open public legal compliance sessions that we are running. And we've onboarded some 4,000 agencies, literally just like yourselves during this time, who have used some or all of our materials, as well as the dashboard, COVIDSafe dashboard, that I will show you as well. As we all return to work in 2021 and businesses reopen, what is required is robust compliance systems and policies and processes to support the work that your agencies do. Now, clearly these need to be enough to keep staff and people safe, but also not onerous enough to be confusing. And as part of this, we're really looking at, well, where is that line? So by attending this legal webinar, you will get a better understanding of the COVID rules at this point in time. You will also continue to get legal updates. We run these webinars each week and will continue to do so until, I'm going to say, the end of this pandemic. And also, you'll get QR code advice and what these do and how they work, which I'll show you in the next few slides, and get a timely collection of resources that provide an overview of information that will be helpful to your company, staff, volunteers, clients, and services that you provide as well too. And we'll also run some real life examples of what I've mentioned as well. If you do have any questions, we will get to all questions in the Q&A part of the session, which is right at the end of this webinar, where we will actually open up the phone lines, and more than happy to stay on the line and answer any questions that people might have. In saying that as well too, you can continue to ask us questions. I am supported by the Gemba 360 support desk as well too. So we will get through to questions as they are posted in the question panel as well. You will also get access to our knowledge base as well. And our knowledge base that we do have that I can show you, and I'll just bring this up here, is located on our website, and our website is just kaizensynergy.com, and you can go to our past webinars over here and actually look at our previous knowledge base as well. And this is open to all of the previous sessions that we also have. In saying that, what we also have is our YouTube channel, which is also open, and all our past webinars are also listed here for your resources as well. So we will actually be opening this up, and with that, we will get access, and you will get access to all of this information that I am showing to you today. So let's have a look at the introduction around this. So with this, we do have a large number of agencies joining us today. And over the last 12 months, we have onboarded some 4,000 companies using these resources that I'm showing you as well too. And also they've been used to run COVIDSafe events, such as the big breakfast that we've just seen just this past weekend. Our law firm that I actually set up some years ago was about actually making sure that legal advice is provided in English and not just for lawyers to understand. So with that, we're very proud to say that over the past number of years, we have received Aboriginal paintings as recognition of going beyond the call of duty, as well as NAIDOC awards, and also been registered and recognized in emergency disaster conferences such as the Premier Dubai International Emergency and Disaster Conference some 12 years ago, which is around emergency management and pandemic planning. So we've been in this business, you can say, for many years, and we actually do support specifically not-for-profit agencies as our core group, specifically around the services that you deliver. That said, that's all that I wanted to mention around that. And also just finally to say that the Gemba 360 COVIDSafe platform, which you will get access to today, is also mobile based. So you don't actually need a desktop to actually access it. So you can actually run through and access this information via mobile device, which you can imagine, especially given the pandemic at the moment, is an invaluable resource to actually have literally at your fingertips. And we will walk you through that today. So let's have a look at contact tracing for COVID-19. The best way to show you how QR codes work and contact tracing is to show you essentially how these work in real life. Now, essentially, when we look at services that you deliver, what we are seeing is there are a number of events that not-for-profit and charities run. These include community events, group classes, as well as what I'll call client and site visits. Now, there are a range of different industry plans and COVIDSafe plans that you may already have seen out there. And what I will do is actually step you through this. So we have consistently used and referred to 2 agencies over the past 12 months that have actually gone through this process and used COVIDSafe plans and also contact tracing in different ways. The first one being, which I'll actually say, Rumbalara Aboriginal Cooperative, and I acknowledge Laurie Seville and the Chief Operating Officer out there. Rumbalara is an Aboriginal corporation that provides a broad range of services across many different sites, everything from medical to justice to outreach work, housing support services, elders facility as well too, aged care services and the likes. Women's Housing is a agency that provides housing support services to men and women. It is based in Melbourne, and I acknowledge Judy Lyne, the Chief Executive Officer out there, but also Lena Tompkinson, the Executive Assistant and Compliance Officer. And the work that they've done is actually set up QR codes specifically to enable contact tracing. Now, let me show you how these work. And we'll actually refer to these agencies in what they've done over the last 12 months. And it really shows you how it can work for yourself and also meet your legal compliance obligations. So let's have a look at the QR codes and check-in workflows. Now, with this, if you do have a mobile phone and you'd like to grab that as well too, you can do this with me, and we'll actually use this as a live site as well too. So with it, firstly, QR codes, what are they? How do they work? And then we'll look at the legal compliance obligations. But sometimes rather than jumping straight to the law, it's actually easier to see how stuff actually works and how it can then work for you to make things easier, but also what you need to think about. So let's have a look. Why do it? Firstly, QR codes are a great way to check in using a mobile device. It also means that you don't have to use pen and paper and also keep registers. And from a public health point of view, the state departments all around the country have really focused on running the QR code specifically to allow contact tracing for people to be registered. As part of that, it's important to look at functionality, and what we have seen by that is it's got to be as easy as possible for people to use. There are some questions around, well, if people are elderly or they don't have mobile phones, what do you do? Well, in that case, I'll actually show you around using your current word-based or paper-based registers, and that can equally be used still as well. What other agencies have then looked at is contact tracing and alerts to agency. What's equally important around QR codes is to make sure that people are actually using it. So you want to know if staff are actually using it, volunteers are using it, or your clients that attend are actually using it. It's pointless to actually have it set up where you don't know if people are actually using it or checking in. The other part around it is speed and usability. So you've got to be able to do it really quickly. This is equally, while it's a public health requirement, it's got to be fast to use and easy to use as well. So those are really the four things that you actually need to do. So when we look at workflows, and this is it here as well too. So essentially what Women's Housing have done is this, and this is a real life case study around this. So essentially what they have done is go in and set this up, and this is a demo test form to show you how the QR code works. So essentially they've got two registers at hand. They've got the paper-based register, which they can still use, which many of your agencies would have already, and I'll show you what one looks like, but also the QR code. Now the QR code, essentially the way this works, and you can do this with me around this as well. So I'm going to bring up my mobile phone around this and show you how this actually works. And let me just bring up my phone, and I'm actually going to share my phone with you on the screen to show you how this actually works. And we're just going to bring this up on this as well too. And let's see how this works. 1 second while we just bring this up for you. And we're just bringing this up now to show you how this actually works around this. So let's have a look to see how this actually works. So what you can see is my mobile device right in front of you. And yes, here are my kids up there as well too. So essentially what we do is we go directly to the screen, we bring that up. And what you can see from here is this is the demo site of the mobile pathway that you have. And what you have is a series of forms in front of you. Now yourselves can actually do this with me as well too. And so you can screen the QR code that's in front of you and let's put in our name. So in this case, I'm going to fill out my name. This is the site, one of the demo site audit forms that we use for testing, and I'll put in my mobile number. That's also made available on all of our webinars. I'm going to mark in a couple of questions here. So it's asked for my name. It's asked for my details of what we have around this as well too. And let me show you how this looks as well, so you can actually see this as well of where this actually appears and what this actually looks like for yourselves to actually view as well. And I note that when you look at these screens, what you do want to be able to do is actually do this very, very, very quickly of how this actually is viewed and what you actually want to see across your screen as well too. So when we actually complete this and you use your phone to actually complete the pictures, then what you can actually see is the details of what you need to complete. And it asks you a series of questions that you can then go from there. Once you complete that, it gives you a thank you message and you can submit it and it's done. And yourselves can do that now with me as well. Now, what we then have from here as well is, let's see how this actually looks and where does this information actually go. So from here, how this works is this way. And I'll bring this up so that yourselves can actually view this as well. And if I refresh the screen around this, then what we can see in here, when I go into the, and I'll bring this up for you now. So I'm just logged in to the women's housing, what we call test site around this, and you have the contact tracing side down below. And what we're able to do from here is a couple of things. Now we can actually go in and actually have a look at the different responses that people have put in. Now, these are some of the ones that people have already put in here around this. You can see I've put in a few, someone's put in a few other names as well too, and we can see that. Now, the good thing about this whole process around this is that we can actually drill in, we can actually see who's done what and when. We can also look at individual responses as well too, and we can see already a few more have been put in. And we can also go back and actually have a look at the actual questions itself. Now, each of these questions from here means that if we need to ever have a look at when people have done something, when people have seen it, what we've done, when they've done it, what the details are, all this information, you can actually view it directly. And that's really important when it comes to things like contact tracing for your agency to see. And equally, if I wanted to go back and have a look at this directly, then I can see this directly from here. So from here, these are some of the past details. I want to actually be able to go in. I want to edit the date, the time that this person's done, and there's a few here that we've just done as tests here, going back from, let's say, even 12 months ago. I can run the audit logs of when people have done these and actually viewed these right across the whole site. And this is really, really important for us to be able to view this information across the board. And so you can see from here what we are able to get is all of the contact tracing information that we need to see. And we've also got specifically around this, as I mentioned, the date and the times that they've also placed this in. And we've just done some information here, and here it is here. So from a contact tracing point of view, it's actually really important that we have this information at hand of what people see and when they actually see it. Now, the same thing can be applied. This was done for different sites. The same thing can actually be done across the board for community events. We've done this for agencies working for different running group classes. All of these types of systems, the same rules apply. And it allows you to actually run the specific updates that you need and meet your legal compliance obligations. And this is just an example of how these appear. So you have your QR code, and from here you can attach this directly to your forms that you have. And we've got the templates for yourselves to actually be able to use this for your agency. Now, one of the questions that has come up, and this is one of our sites that we have, was that when we run it up, and this is for our site, we actually registered with the, in this case, the Victorian government have with the QR codes. Now, currently, when this is being run, what issues that it would come up was that you didn't actually get information to actually see it. So you can actually set this up, but under some of the current state QR codes, you're flying blind because you don't actually have this information. And you can't see once people have been registered. Now, with it, what has been set up, and we can see it here under the current guidelines, certainly for Victoria, and I've seen this with other states, where if using QR code reviews, there are many different digital check-in solutions that you can use. To help contact tracers, and I'm quoting the department here, you should only use one platform per business or venue. What we found is literally by using the COVIDSafe dashboard that we're showing you, it gives you the ability to view your staff, your volunteers, any people that are managing, that are visiting your sites, any contractors that are doing any management works, all that sort of information you have readily at hand. And it means that you can actually report to your boards and committees of management on specific items that you need to report on. Now, when we go into the QR rules, what we're finding is that for your COVID-safe plans for step 1, step 2, and step 3, the QR codes and contact tracing is one part that you also then need to look at as part of your COVID-safe plan. Now, Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister here in Australia, stood up last year and said, look, here's the framework that we expect all workplaces to follow. And you can see we've highlighted these here, that each workplace must develop a COVID-safe plan. As part of this, what we have gone ahead and done is set up for all of the agencies joining us today, your dashboard that you'll be given has access to, for a single user to be able to jump in and start using a COVID-safe plan that meets your legal compliance obligations, self-assessment rules, identify areas for improvement, and build off your COVID-safe plans. And also, if you're running community events, be able to do this as well too. Now, we've got the various self-assessment tools from a workplace audit point of view, as well as your compliance and reporting obligations as well. Now, on this, when we look at things like the specific rules as they apply now, we've seen some changes since the 19th of January where rules across the country are changing. And it's things like different laws that you need to be aware of. There is what they call a new UK variant that is been identified in Queensland, and there are a range of new restrictions that have been introduced and some relaxation of different rules. We're not going to cover off each of these because that's a whole separate webinar on its own on each of these slides. But what we will be sending directly to you is summaries of rules based in Queensland, covering areas of how many people you can have over at any house at any one period of time. And this includes for clients visiting or for you visiting clients at your different sites that you might have, when you need to wear a mask as well too, and how this applies to different states and territories, how many people can actually gather outside for different venues or group classes that your agency might manage as well too. And also, if there are also changes to aged care facilities, and how that allowed and what requirements you are as well too, and also whether you can hold meetings or eat at restaurants, cafes, or pubs, and how these actually apply, and whether you can travel to different states or territories, and what the requirements individually are for each of these states and territories right across Australia. Equally, we've also got a number of religious groups joining us from around the country today, and there are questions on, can I go to my place of worship? Now, we have had a question just from Diane in relation to, is there a QR code from the Department of Health or Human Services, DHHS, or a paid version? As I found, the DHHS one did not allow me to enter questions. That's a great question, Diane. The one that we have that I've shown you as well too is the QR code that we've set up for different agencies as well too. You will get access to use your own QR codes on the dashboard, which I will show you of where to go as well too. There is a license fee that does cover that as well too, Diane, and that allows you to really customize and tailor specific questions for your agency's use. So whether that be at a specific site, whether that be at a community event that you might be running, group class that you might be running, and the likes, that allows you to do that as well too. And I'll show you what that looks like using the Women's Housing Test Site as an example. So with it, from your legal compliance obligations, there are positive work health and safety obligations that your agency needs to follow. What we are suggesting when looking at these codes, when you're looking at your COVIDSafe plans, is to look at the summary slides that I've shown you around your state laws. Does the venue have a COVIDSafe plan? Is there a relevant industry plan in place? What services am I actually running? Can I maintain rules of work health and safety, i.e. social distancing and required PPE requirements as well too? As well as what are the other things I need to consider, for example, the checklist tools, and also having a check-in and check-out. So that's really a summary of the 6 items that we do need to suggest that you actually look at as part of this process. Now, with it, what we have done is also summarize these down into a COVIDSafe plan for you to also look at. And what I mean by that is, on top of just those checklist points, there are safe work requirements that you also need to look at. And many of you might have seen these around physical distancing, health and hygiene, as well as cleaning. And you're kind of looking at this going, well, how much do I actually need to look at? On top of that, you then need to consider your registers. So event and workplace register. And this is one that I actually acknowledge Sonia at Creation Ministries International. And this was one where we actually set this up for them. They do some fantastic work right around the country. They have volunteers that travel between states. They also run a range of various events with CMI International as a lead agency as well too. And Creation Ministries International really allows this to be as part of their attendance work register. Now, with all of this, you look at this and go, well, how do I piece this all together? I've got my QR codes, as Diane just requested the question about being able to ask specific questions on. You've got your workplace assessment requirements, as well as your work plan and board reports that you need to look at. So what we have done for yourselves is to bring all of this legal compliance work together. And we've done it in a way that really allows you to basically go to our website, which I can show you here. It allows you to log in, and you will actually get a login code for this. And you'll be given a username and password as well too. And once you do log in, you'll see your own profile and agency profile. And this is a resource that has been opened up for all agencies. There is license fees that are attached to this, which we will send out, but it gives you the single seat to be able to jump in and start using this straight away. Firstly, your COVID daily assessment forms are found on the left-hand side. So what this means is that you can actually run, firstly, your screenings for staff, and I'll come back to these around. But your COVID plan to start off with, you've got your COVID plan. If you click on the disaster system, this opens up your COVIDSafe plan. And this is used by thousands of agencies literally around the country. At any one point in time, we've got over 1 million people around the world using this system. And it is something run by our law firm to make COVIDSafe legal compliance simple and easy to use. You can simply click on the disaster project and then projects, and you've got your COVIDSafe plans listed here. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, as identified by Scott Morrison. With it, you can click on those, and you've then got your checklist to actually work through as part of your COVIDSafe requirements. And each of these allows you to work through individual plans. You'll also find that we've got specific plans based on the industry plans for events, being client site visits, community events, or group events as well. You'll also find that we've also got the job maker and industrial relations and skill makers program, as these are legal updates that the Commonwealth flag is undergoing reform at the moment, and they flagged that mid last year. So with that, we are actually putting those into the COVIDSafe plan requirements. What this gives you also, if I go into here, is all the resources that I've spoken to you about previously. So under documents, if I wanted to have a look at the safe work checklist, rather than trying to find this on the regulator's site, we've actually streamed this directly into your system. So this way, it actually feeds directly in to your COVIDSafe plan without you having to do additional work. Equally, if I wanted to also have a look at things like workers' permits that might come up in your agency space, then you've got access to this here as well too. Now, the workers' permit, you might have seen, and this is just downloading because government websites crashed. This is the example of one in Victoria when it went back, and this is an example of one that we've loaded in here. So you've got access to all of this information, also along with your own QR code to actually use for your agency. So this means, when answering Diane's question, that essentially you're able to go back and actually have a look at the individual QR codes, and you've got a single QR code to use. Now, you might need what Women's Housing has done. You might need many QR codes as part of your work. And again, this allows you to monitor all of your contact tracing you need right across your agency. So we've got the, if I go back, you've got the COVIDSafe plans, which under your disaster side, which meets your legal compliance obligations. You've then also got your COVIDSafe daily assessments, and this is what Rumballara has actually been using as well too. And an example of this means that they can actually go in, and staff have been asked to complete their daily assessments as part of this and check to know that they've actually, whether they've had any symptoms or not, and essentially go directly in and manage all of their reporting. So essentially they know exactly when staff, if there are positive cases or any symptoms that people have, and they've got their assessments that they need to run here. Equally, what they also then get is, under their HR space, is the ability to run all of their workplace registers for their volunteers and also their staff. Now, What I mean by that is when they load in, and this is when you can actually expand this across your legal compliance space and make sure that you're meeting your obligations, is to look at, for example, employees, members, and volunteers. Each person can essentially have their own login details that they're given to actually access their space. And if I go to my profile, for example, they can actually update their emergency contact details directly, and all staff are actually able to view this information itself. And you'll get access to be able to look at running this system directly off your own platform for yourselves today for your agency. And it makes your legal compliance obligations a lot easier to manage. So essentially what we've done across this for you is join all the dots together. You can view your dashboard directly, and it's there for yourselves to actually use. We've joined the dots around that. You've got your registers in your COVIDSafe plans. We've seen this work with Rumballara Aboriginal Cooperative and Women's Housing. You've got policy templates to also use within your dashboard as well too, which makes it simple and easy to manage all of your policies that you have, as well as staff training and monitor HR registers. What we will be looking at next week is actually running through the COVIDSafe plan. We will be looking at how to roll this out to staff using the e-learning section as well too. And I can see a number of agencies asking us to actually look at running the process for you as well too in rolling this up to staff, which we will be looking at next week. Essentially, this will also include all of the template policies that your agency can be using, and we'll actually be using a live agency to actually view this as well. Now, I can see a few questions coming up around this, and agencies asking around the coding and the contact tracing. Yeah, this allows you to run your contact tracing and set these up as well too. It also allows you to actually work with us if you do have any questions through that as well. I've shown you the case examples today of the women's housing and what they've done and how they've done it, and also all of the COVIDSafe requirements and forms that your agency needs to look at. What we will be doing is sending out all of these resources for your agency to use today. This will include the policy templates. This will include access to your COVIDSafe plan for your agency. This will include the workflows and legal compliance checklists for your agency to use as well too. If there are any questions, we are more than happy to stay online and answer these for you as well too. If you are listening to this recording at a later stage, by all means, please contact us on 1300 360 360, or you can email us at support@gemba360.com.